young child, my father, on a weekly basis, every Saturday, every Sunday, would sit in the living room with a cigar and a cup of coffee, and he would read the Sunday paper cover to cover.
When I was a kid, the only news you got was on the radio. That's all we had with the radio. I used to listen to I think it was the Lone Ranger and all these serials that you have today. I used to sit with my ear to the radio and listen to the ball games and listen to the stories and listen to everything, but everything was on the radio.
The news has gotten so bad that it's harder and harder to listen to the news. It's a little bit more depressing than normal. So I don't listen as much these days to straight news.
It was Wednesday nights, if I remember, going back many years ago. All the people in the building used to come to our living room and watch. We used to all watch Milton Berle. It was like the thrill of the week.
When I first went into business, my first job was all about slides and film. And that was the medium of the day. And you basically made the slides change as you basically turned one projector off at the same time you turned a second projector on. So the images would tend to blend together. But very quickly, within the second year that I was in the business, so this is getting to be the mid to later 70s, they started having machines that automatically, at the push of a button, shut one lamp down and then another lamp up on a projector. And then a year or so went by and there was a very simple computer that ran on a punch tape, much like you see in the movies now. Years later, the first computer slides came on the scene. So back in the 90s, the first computers that were used to make slides. Before that, all the slides were made with artwork. You would design something, you'd get a stat made, you'd get a negative and a positive, you'd clean it and gel it and color it, and you put it under a camera and shoot it, and that's the way you would make the slide.
Newsrooms used to be noisy, kind of raucous places where a lot of people were screaming and yelling, and you had to scream and yell to be heard over the old teletype machine. And nowadays, it looks like an insurance office. Everybody's quiet phones in the background, people murmuring in their little cubicles as they're conducting interviews and stuff like that. We used to type on old IBM Selectric typewriters. They were electric typewriters, and all you could hear was this clatter of keys as you got closer and closer to deadline. And in the back of the newsroom was the teletype machine for all the wire copy. And this thing was so loud. Hear it clattering and the bells going off if it was a bulletin about something or an update to a particular story. You can hear the bells clang, 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 and then you hear the teletype going. When we switched over to the computer in the middle of the day, all of a sudden everything got shut down, and this was this unearthly quietness. It was so quiet that your ears were ringing, and you never realized how loud of an environment you were working in until all that noise was finally gone.
Now you can't even get or find a slide projector. There's no one who really does anything for audiovisual in film anymore. It's turned into a totally digital age with a PowerPoint and high-end computer graphics, and of course everything in video, very often in high definition.
Early in my career, I ran into a lot of characters, and I mean real characters. People who were definitely not working with a full deck. Some of them were very odd type of people, very idiosyncratic. But that, as corporate journalism started taking over, there was less and less leeway for those kinds of people. And they started dropping out, and everybody got to be started looking like an insurance office. Everybody was sitting there in their own little cubicle and doing their job. I'm not saying that the talent level was any less, but some of the personalities you couldn't describe.
And the first PC that was specifically designed to run AV shows, to run multiple projector shows, appeared on the scene, and it used a 5-inch floppy disk, and it was quirky, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. But that was the first computers that were used in the business.
Spent 29 years in the newspaper business as both a reporter and an editor, and just retired this past December. 29 years was long enough. I wanted to get out while I still could walk and talk, and also some of the changes in the media. It wasn't the same business that I had gone into. It was the staffs were shrinking. There were problems with money. They're getting to a point now where people are taking unpaid furloughs because of money problems with various newspapers. And it's not just the one paper I worked at, but several newspapers in the area are giving people unpaid furloughs to take in order to save money.
What's changing in our business is the need for face-to-face meetings, and that's the biggest change that's going on now, and that is people wondering whether or not indeed it makes sense to fly executives and audiences and dealers and buyers into a central location, put them up overnight, and have a 2 or 3 or 4 day meeting, when you can have a very effective presentation using the internet. And the need to have face-to-face meetings, regardless of the reason, is winding down as GoToMeeting and WebEx and webinars and all kinds of online digital meetings that you can do from your office or even office to office are starting to really make inroads into the live presentation business.
I still love to read the paper. I like the entertainment section. I like the groceries section where I could get all my bargains, and I like the advertisements for clothes, and there's a lot the newspaper has to offer.
I think television, radio, movies, I would say, have all been affected by the digital age and the internet, because those were primary sources for millions of people, or I don't know, maybe hundreds of millions of people. And as the digital revolution has taken over and the internet has become more pervasive and more accepted and certainly more user-friendly, people find that they don't need to get their news from the radio, or don't want to get their news from the radio or from a dirty newspaper, dirty meaning the ink on it, or from a magazine.
I just prefer my paper. It's easier, less complicated, less a hassle, and it's just my old ways in many ways that I still haven't changed.